This is a new series that I'm doing called Boss Up. And this is the first one where we're talking about Boss Up, your client onboarding systems. So I do, I'm looking both ways because I'm looking at Facebook and I'm looking at Instagram. So I do a regular series that I give business tips on my channel called Monday Mischief Managed. But I said, you know what, I want to do a series where I talk about, I guess, the same content like for an entire week and not just like random tips. And it's for people who are like service-based business owners, entrepreneurs, coaches, consultants, that kind of thing, because I want to help in some way people who own like online businesses, and you might need just a little bit of help and tips. So that's the purpose of this new Boss Up series. So we're going to see what happens. So I'm looking both ways because I'm looking at both of y'all. So this week we're talking about the client onboarding process. If you're on Instagram or if you're on Facebook, say hey in the comments because I can never see who's online unless you comment. I don't know why it's like that. So just say hey and where you're at. And if you're watching the replay, just put hashtag replay and you can still say hey and where you're at. So all week long, we're talking about the client onboarding process. So I wanted to start with, what is a client onboarding process? What you might be more familiar with is the onboarding process for people who get a job, right? So when you get a job, you hire, the first thing that they do is what? They get your information, they put you through some type of training for the company. This is what the company does, this is what the company is about. And then, they put you into whatever position that you applied for. Businesses, especially service-based businesses, a lot of them do not have an onboarding process because I guess they feel like it's not the same type of deal like when you start a job. But that approach is so wrong. And I want to tell you because there are so many people out here who don't have an onboarding process. So I wrote like an entire blog post about this last week. A lot of people, they don't even have an onboarding process. Like their onboarding process consists of, I'm going to take the client payment and that's it. Right? That is not an onboarding process. Your onboarding process has to be so much more than you just collecting a client payment. That is not it, right? That is not the end of the deal. And sometimes a lot of people, they don't realize that a lot of people leave their businesses or ask for refunds or they're not referring your services because guess what? Your client onboarding process sucks. But the client is not going to give you that feedback, and you don't realize that that's the reason why they're asking for their refund or they're not, right? Hey Amanda, that's why they're asking for their refund or they're not just referring your service to anybody else because your onboarding process sucks. But they don't know that that's a term that they should tell you, like your onboarding process sucks. So the three things I can't remember all of them that I put in the blog post was one, some of you don't even have an onboarding process, or two, your onboarding process is collect the payment and that's it. Or the other one, for those of you that do have an onboarding process, your onboarding process is, you onboard the clients, but then you're emailing the client asking them for information. Your VA is emailing the client asking them for information. Your project manager is emailing the client asking them for information. And you're confusing the heck out of these people. And they're like, I just spent money with you. And it doesn't even look like you know what you're doing. Like up front, it doesn't even look like you know what you're doing. Because you have all these different people asking me the same question or the same information, like you guys are not communicating on the back end. So I'm like, okay, that's the first thing that I wanted to talk about, the client onboarding process, because a lot of people don't realize that you're losing people at the very front of your business because you don't have a client onboarding process in place. So today, all week long, I'm going live at 9 o'clock, depending on what the littles are doing. Because that's why we just started a few minutes late, because I was putting one to sleep. And, he has to get in his rhythm. So once I put him to bed, that's when I came on live. So y'all going to have to give me a little bit of a grace period. So between 9 and 9:15, I'll be on live all week talking about the client onboarding process. And today we're talking about why you need an onboarding process and, what that onboarding process is. Now, by Wednesday, it should be done by Wednesday. I'll give you guys access to a free client onboarding checklist that I am currently working on. My other computer over here is stuck up already. I'm trying to finish it off. So so it should be done by Wednesday. So I'll give you guys a link where you can download it. It's a free checklist for a client onboarding process, and it also lists like tools that you can use for your client onboarding process. And most of the tools are free tools. It's not nothing that you have to spend any money on. You can just download these tools to use them to help you create your online client onboarding process. All right, so why should you have a client onboarding process? 6 things that I wanted to talk about today. The 6 reasons why you should have a client onboarding process. The number 1 reason is your chance to wow your clients. Like, it's a simple thing that you can do to wow them, because a lot of people don't realize, especially if you have high ticket items, right? If you're spending, see, that's one of the littles who would normally be in bed, but it's spring break week, so she's not. But a lot of clients, a lot of times, especially if you have a high ticket service, right? And they're spending maybe $500 or more on your services. It's a hard thing to do. A lot of people don't have like the money mindset to actually spend that money, especially for a coach or consultant. It's hard enough for them to spend that money. And then when they do spend that money and you don't have an onboarding process, or, you're confusing them in your onboarding process, or your onboarding process is just, I'm going to take your money and that's it. Right? So the thing that you want to do when clients on board or they spend that money with you is wow the clients. And you can do that with something as simple as an onboarding process. And your onboarding process can include an email that goes out to the client that says, hey, thank you for signing up for my services. Here's what's going to happen next. A simple email that goes out to the client that just says that. Right? So this is your chance to wow the clients with your onboarding process, and that's something that you can easily do. Hey, hi, I see you. Don't forget to say where you are if you're watching the replay. Yes. No, you don't need anything now because she's coming over here now that I'm online. So the second reason why, yes, that you should have an onboarding process is to re-communicate your brand message. So here's the thing. I do this in my my onboarding process for my podcast a lot of times, or even in my virtual assistant business, because that's a service-based business, right? My brand message is, I'm trying to help you to love Mondays in your business again. If you don't love Mondays in your business now because you're tired or you're burnt out or you're doing like all the back end things and it's like just draining, my goal when I come into your business is to help you love Mondays in your business again. So you'll see that in the welcome packet that you get when you sign up for my services. You'll see that in the email that comes out to you when you sign up for my services. And we'll talk about this on Friday, Thursday. Even before you even get into the actual client onboarding process, your onboarding process starts even before you sign on that new client. So you'll see it in the portfolio that I send you before we even start talking or having a conversation about, you coming into my services. So that brand message is in there throughout the entire onboarding process, and you'll see that again. So if you have an onboarding process, this is your time to tell them again, hey, this is my brand message. This is what I'm coming in your business, or this is what you're signing up for, and this is what I'm trying to help you do with my services. It's a simple thing that you can do when you have an onboarding process. You can include that in there so that they get that message again. Because like I said, it's a mindset shift for people to spend like $500, $1,000, $2,000 just for services. That's a mindset shift for people, and you want to reassure them when they get into your business, like, hey, I spent my money with the right person, right? So when you have things like that, that's just reassuring them, okay, she's going to help me love Mondays in my business again. Like, that's a simple message that you can brand anywhere in your business, anywhere in your business when you are signing on new clients. So don't forget that. Another reason why you should have an onboarding process. Number 3, it's a repeatable process, right? Every time you get a new client, you should have the same exact process. You should have a checklist. These 4 things are going to happen every time I sign on a new client. And guess what it does? It keeps you a little bit sane. It provides you with a little bit of sanity, right? That every time you sign up a new client, these 4 things are going to happen, and it's going to happen in this order, right? So you're not guessing every time you sign up a new client, what am I supposed to do? What did I forget to do? What is it that I'm supposed to do again? right? You have the same process every time. So having an onboarding process allows you to have a repeatable process. Now, I'm not saying that that process will never change, but I am saying that it should be repeatable enough where every time a new person signs up for your service, you know these 4 steps are going to happen, and they're going to happen every single time. Number 4. The other part that should be, or why you should have an onboarding process, is so you can ask for things up front. Now, if you are a service-based business owner, or you're providing like coaching services or consulting services, there are things that you need from your client to start businesses. So if you're a coach or a consultant, you probably need to know, okay, what's the best days of the week that we can have chats or conversations so that we can schedule like our 30 minutes coaching sessions. That's something that you need to know up front. So, and like I said, that's why I'm going to give the checklist on Wednesday. One of the things that you can have as part of your onboarding process is a client form that basically says or asks for these specific types of information from your client. So if you need to know, I need to know the days that they're available to meet. I need to know the tools that they use. So if they're familiar with Google Meet or Zoom or whatever other online meeting tool that there is, you can ask your client that up front so that you know, okay, I'm meeting with client Ann, whatever, and she prefers to use Google Meet because that's what she's used to. You get that information from your client up front. So that there's not like a big gap between when you can start providing services and, when they started. You grab all the information that you need up front. So if you're a service-based business owner, like a virtual assistant, one of the things that I do is I send my clients a form and I ask them for things that I need up front. For example, I need password information because if I'm going to be managing someone's social media accounts or if I'm going to be doing email support for them, guess what? They're going to have to send me, well, not the actual password, but they're going to have to send me something that I can access that email account that I need access to, right? They're going to need to have something that actually gives me the information that I need to get into their social media accounts. So I ask them for that password information, or I ask them to set up something like a LastPass or what's the other one called? FirstPass or First Password, something like that. Like I ask them if they already have these tools set up because I don't want them to go out there and set up a tool that they already have set up, right? So I ask them in advance, hey, do you have these tools set up? If not, I need you to set up LastPass, for example. So you can set up a LastPass that way, because that's the one that I use the most. But if they already have something else, then I just go with what they have. But LastPass would be the one that I say, hey, you need to set this up because I'm going to need to get your password information from you. So that's why you should have it as part of your onboarding process, because there are things that you are going to need to start someone's project, right? Or to start having meetings with somebody if you're a coach or consultant. You're going to need that information up front, right? If you are doing recurring payments, you're going to need their information on where am I supposed to send the invoice, right? All that type of stuff you're going to need up front. And where should you get that? In your client onboarding process, because it just makes sense, right? It just makes sense to ask for that information up front. Yes, mama. All right, I'm almost done. The kiddo is here, so I'm almost done. So number 5. Oh, I love number 5 because it says, let the client know you still care even after you take that payment. Right? Let the client know that you still care after you take that first payment. Because a lot of you have onboarding systems, and your onboarding system is I take the client's money and that's it. Right? You take the client's money and then that's it. They don't hear from you again unless it's time to have the conversation. Like if you're a coach and you're going to have the conversation, that's the only time they hear from you again. When it's about time to get on the call or get on your first call or get your first coaching session. That's your onboarding system. Right? If you have an onboarding system that does more than take the client's money, it lets them know that you still care, right? It lets them know that the services that you provide, you are ready and willing to provide these services for them. And it's not just about the money for you, right? It's not just about getting their financial information and putting it into your pocket and forgetting until the next time you have to meet with that client. So create an onboarding system that allows you to communicate with that client and show them that you care more than just taking the money from them, getting their credit card information. It's not just about the business. Lastly, this is the last one, so my daughter can start walking over here because she always knows when I'm on mine, right? They never want to come by you until you start going on the computer or on live. The last one. Have a client onboarding system because it shows you're a professional. Simple as that. It shows that you are a professional, because amateurs don't have a client onboarding because what? they have not even thought about having an onboarding system. They don't even know what that is, right? So they're just winging it in their business. They're winging it when every week comes and, they get a new client and they're like, what am I supposed to do next, right? If you're guessing what you're supposed to do next, guess who's guessing what they're supposed to do next? Your clients. If you don't even know what's going to happen next in your business, how are your clients going to know what's going to happen next? Right? So having an onboarding process allows you to show up in your business as a professional. And that's what you want to show up as. Especially if you have high ticket offers and you're out here asking people for $500, $1,000, $2,000, right? But you still out here showing up as an amateur because you have no client onboarding process whatsoever. What kind of business is that? We're not trying to show up out here to be amateurs in our business. We're trying to show up as professionals. And professionals have a client onboarding system. So that's what I wanted to talk about today. What a client onboarding system is and why you should have one. Tomorrow, I have to look at the schedule. Hold on. Tomorrow, I think we're talking about the tools that I use in my client onboarding system. And again, I said I'll have this as a freebie where you can just download it. By Wednesday, it should be done. Depending on what these little people let me do throughout the day. By Wednesday, it should be done, and I'll give you guys a link where you just can download it, and you can see like all the tools that I use in my client onboarding process, depending on the type of business that you have, right? So you'll customize it to the type of business that you have. I provide services, so if you're a service-based business owner, most of the things will work for you. If you're a coach or consultant, most of the things will work for you. If you are a product-based business, some of the things might work for you, but not everything on that list will work for you. But like I said, this is for service-based business owners. That's who I'm gearing it towards. But if you're a product-based business owner, you can use some of the things, but everything might not work for you. So you decide what's going to work for you based on, the list that I provide. So Wednesday, that's going to happen. So tomorrow we'll talk about the tools that I use in my onboarding process. Again, 9 o'clock all week long, I'm doing this new series called the Boss Up series. So those of you that show up there today, make sure you say hi. I know your bosses, right? So make sure you say hi. Make sure you tell me if you're watching the replay or not. And just make sure you show up this week. So every day for this week at 9 o'clock, I'm going to be showing up to talk about your client onboarding process and what you need to do for your client onboarding process, the types of tools that you need to use. What else are we talking about? Oh, why your client onboarding process starts before your first payment, your offboarding process, and then we'll talk about the 3 C's of the client onboarding process. So all week long, that's all we're going to talk about. So I hope to see you guys show back up here at 9 o'clock, between 9 and 9:15.